a white snake in the 100,000 mountains. To adapt to the cruel survival environment of the forest, I had to suppress my willful nature with animal instincts. Every day, I was either doing a snake dance for the eagles or using these rabbits as punching bags. Finally, after 20 years, I successfully became a local overlord, but I also became cold-blooded and ruthless, gradually forgetting the memories of my past life. Until one day, an herb gatherer fell into the water in the mountains. Influenced by the last shred of humanity in my mind, I rescued him and sent him down the mountain. I thought this would be the end of it, but unexpectedly, a few days later, this guy appeared before me again. He took out a few boiled eggs from his chest, bowed to me repeatedly, and thanked me for saving his life. Otherwise, my wife and children wouldn't be able to survive. I want to gather herbs in these mountains, so please, Snake Immortal, protect me. I was a bit speechless, thinking he was greedy and insatiable, so I turned to leave. However, seeing that I didn't bite him, the herb gatherer assumed I had agreed to his request. Then on, he became a frequent visitor to this forest. Every day, I coiled around a big tree, watching him collect herbs, cultivate seedlings, and slowly build up a medicinal garden. If we occasionally met, he would even sit down familiarly and chatter away. I've gathered a lot of herbs lately, enough to feed the whole family. I definitely have to thank you properly, and things like that. Later, I got annoyed by his nagging, so I had to avoid him every day. Just like that, half a year passed. The seedlings planted by the herb gatherer began to mature. He gathered even more herbs every day, which finally drew the jealousy of his fellow villagers. This day, as usual, I was absorbing the essence of the world. After finishing my cultivation, I suddenly sensed that there were 3 hot humanoid figures in the herb garden. I was instantly furious, thinking the herb gatherer had brought people in without permission. Did he really treat this place as his own backyard? So, I aggressively slithered down the mountain, but unexpectedly, just outside the herb garden, I saw the herb gatherer lying on the ground with blood on his mouth, his hands desperately clinging to the calf of a fellow villager. "These are my herbs. You can't take them away. Is this mountain yours? This is our territory. You've got a lot of nerve, daring to come steal herbs." Meanwhile, the other 2 were gleefully about to pull up the herbs. Seeing this, the herb gatherer had to let go of the lean man's leg, spreading his arms to protect the 2 most valuable medicinal plants, refusing to back down no matter how the 3 beat him. Seeing this scene, I couldn't help but feel a bit puzzled. Getting into a physical fight over a few common herbs, is it really worth it? Just as I was wondering whether to do something, I noticed that the lean man was already red in the face with anger, his veins bulging. He actually pulled out a machete used for clearing paths and slashed it down at the herb gatherer's back. The machete was heavy and not particularly sharp, but it still hacked a gash into the herb gatherer's body. The other 2 were stunned. They were just ordinary mountain folk and had never thought of killing a fellow villager. "What are you afraid of? It's just us here. Who would know if you guys did it or not?" He wanted to drag the other 2 down with him, but after a long while, he didn't hear any movement. When he habitually turned his head to look, he found his neck tighten, as if clamped by something. Immediately after, a sharp pain shot through him. Snake venom entered his body through his neck. Even if he ate an immortal elixir, he couldn't be saved. After letting go of the lean man, I raised my head and looked at the other 2. They were already scared out of their wits and scrambled away in terror. I didn't chase them, nor did I feel any guilt. 20 years of living like a wild beast had long worn away my humanity. The herb gatherer looked at me in horror. Perhaps only now did he remember that the white snake before him was a venomous beast. After throwing the man's corpse into an ant nest, when I returned to the herb garden, I surprisingly found that the herb gatherer talked less. From then on, in the way he looked at me, there was an added look of fear, until he stopped talking altogether. The weather grew cooler. The herb gatherer waited for the herbs to mature, dug them up, and never came back, and his little herb garden gradually became overgrown. I also returned to my previous life, just diligently cultivating every day. It wasn't until the 2nd year that the herb gatherer came once. He just took a look from afar and left. What I didn't know was, by this time, rumors had already gone crazy outside, saying there was a giant white snake in the mountains that had become a demon. Rumor even had it that I had a coxcomb on my head, loved eating people, so much so that this part of the forest became deserted. Just like that, another 10 years passed. My body became even stronger, and chi gradually condensed within me. I didn't know what it was, but I could feel that the gas was constantly strengthening my body. This day, in my senses, a humanoid creature suddenly appeared. It was that herb gatherer. He bowed repeatedly, just like he did 10 years ago. 10 years of time made this man who risked his life to gather herbs in the mountains become even more weather-beaten. With that frail, hunched body, he probably couldn't climb cliffs anymore. It's been 10 years. I didn't expect to see you again. I've become a useless old man. I can't make money for the family, and I have to rely on my son and daughter-in-law to feed me. My old lady passed away this spring before last. There was a drought and no food. She wouldn't listen and ate guanyin clay. In the end, she only lived for 7 days. I know she did it to save food for the kids. I listened quietly. For the first time, I didn't find him annoying. This old man who worked hard his whole life to feed his family ultimately couldn't change his fate of poverty. He didn't understand the reason, but I did. In this ancient era where classes were already rigid and chaotic, the vast majority of people found it hard to live a good life. The fact that they could even stay alive was already considered a blessing from those noble families. In the afternoon, the herb gatherer left. He didn't have long to live. I smelled the scent of impending death on him. Perhaps he would be very happy to meet his old lady after death and save some food for his son's family. But I felt a sense of urgency. The taste of death is not good. I didn't want to die again. Just like that, a white snake, in order not to die, began to strive to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Until a few years later, I encountered a very bizarre thing. I don't know when it started, but there were always other big snakes coming into my territory. Even though I relied on my size advantage to roughly throw them out, the next day, another snake would come running over. It annoyed me to no end, and I couldn't cultivate either. Finally, I was really out of options, so I thought about going to see what the ancient human world looked like. But unexpectedly, I witnessed life and death parting once again. 2 days later, I arrived at the edge of a forest near a village. My first impression of this village was that it was poor. A cluster of dilapidated thatched huts at the foot of the hill, many rice paddies by the stream, and a skinny yellow dog running across the field ridges. They couldn't even find a few mice. I thought I'd just take a casual look and return to the deep mountains. Unexpectedly, before leaving, I actually met a little girl. The girl was 6 or 7 years old, with pigtails, wearing a coarse cloth skirt washed until it was pale. She was skipping to the back mountain to catch butterflies and pick flowers. Usually, it was very safe here with no animals, but today, there was a lame old wolf prowling around. Just as the little girl was frozen in fear, I wrapped around the old wolf at extreme speed and then forcefully contracted my muscles till I crushed its bones. The girl sat on the ground, staring blankly at me and the old wolf. After a long while, she asked curiously, "Are you the snake immortal from the back mountain?" I was a bit speechless. I didn't expect the legend from back then. It's still affecting me even now. I flicked my tongue twice to confirm. Nua's small mouth formed an O in surprise. You can understand what I'm saying? I flicked my tongue twice again. Nua was even more astonished. A giant snake that can understand human speech. How magical. She thought for a moment, then asked, "Will you eat me?" Daddy said the wild beasts in the mountains all eat people. I shook my head, although I really wanted to nod and scare her a little. But after being cooped up in this mountain for so long, I finally found someone to chat with. It would be a pain to find another if I scared her away. What followed was a display of the girl's pure innocence. First, she shouted with joy. Then, before I could even react, she ran right over and touched my scales with her small hands. So pretty. Prettier than the big porcelain bowl at my house. And just like that, I, who had planned to return to the deep mountains, ended up staying near the village. The little girl named Yunair often came to chat with me. When she was tired, she would lie on my body and take a nap. Several months passed in a flash. One day, Yunair ran over, plopped down on me with her head hanging low, and said, "Big snake, I'm so hungry." The clan leader from town took all our grain. He said it was for the grain tax. But Yunair is so hungry. I understood. In this era, the common people were organized by clans. The clan leader and elders were essentially the local emperors of the villages and towns. Whether it was dividing land, selling property, or even murder and arson, they had the final say. The saying "the law of the land doesn't reach the countryside" was about this very thing. The main branch of the clan, the one with the clan leader and elders, was unscrupulous, and they exploited every means to hoard grain. Farming households had no way to resist. After some thought, I turned and slithered into the forest. Under Yunair's expectant gaze, I dragged a small wild boar out. Yunair's eyes lit up. "Is this for me?" She saw me nod. Yunair's eyes curved into crescent moons. She ran home, shouting all the way. But the next day, the story began to spread like wildfire through the village. Having found a source of food, Yunair's father wasn't stingy. After slaughtering and skinning the pig, he sent meat to the other families who also had no grain. These villagers lived on the edge of the Shawan Mountains. They could only survive by sticking together. At first, everyone said Yunair was lucky. But after the pork was finished, Yunair found 2 pheasants on the back mountain. This time, Yunair's parents started to find it strange, but they didn't say much, until the family ran out of food again, and Yunair actually brought back a wolf. The villagers couldn't sit still any longer. A wild wolf in its prime. How could a little girl have found it? So, on the hillside, dozens of villagers surrounded the wolf's carcass, murmuring amongst themselves. Yunair stood in the middle, head down, silent. Although this food had helped the villagers get through a tough time, it was just too bizarre. If this wasn't handled carefully, they might very well brand Yunair as a demon child and throw her into a fire to be burned alive. "Yunair, what's the deal with this wolf?" Yunair kept her head down, fidgeting with her fingers, not saying a word. "Who brought it? Could it be a great hero who was passing through our village?" The great hero Yunair's father mentioned referred to those martial artists who roam the pugilist world, but Yunair just shook her head. "Yunair, you have to tell the truth. Otherwise, don't call me your father anymore." The neighbors saw this and tried to intervene, but Yunair's father waved his hand, signaling that it was fine. Then he stared coldly at his daughter, thinking to himself, If she still won't talk, I'll have no choice but to get the broom and beat her. But perhaps he didn't realize that for a 7 or 8-year-old girl, those words were already the harshest scolding imaginable. Yuner instantly panicked. She remembered how her parents doted on her younger brother while deliberately giving her the cold shoulder. The more Yuner thought, the more scared she became, afraid that her family really didn't want her. She also remembered her mother once viciously saying that she was a worthless money pit. With a sob, Yuner burst into tears. In the end, she spilled everything. In the distant, dense forest, I sighed inwardly. After thinking about it, I decided to show myself, see how these villagers would react. Look! The white snake. Everyone's gaze followed that person's line of sight. I saw Yuner running forward, crying loudly, and throwing her arms around me. Her tears flowed like they were free. I lowered my head and rubbed against the girl's back twice to comfort her. After showing up and declaring my presence, I turned and slithered back into the forest, taking a big detour to the other side to observe the progress. Seeing that the villagers didn't do anything to Yuner, I finally put my snake heart at ease. Later, the legend of the snake immortal started up again in the village. Some villagers even brought yellow paper and candles to burn and worship at the places where I had appeared. Besides thanking me for delivering food, they made wishes praying for good weather next year, and so on. All of this was fine, but the most outrageous thing was that someone actually wished to find a good husband and a good in-law family. Is this something I can manage? Over the next few days, every few days, I would deliver wild beasts to the village. But the good times didn't last long. The strange occurrences in the mountain village soon attracted the attention of those with ulterior motives. Yuner trotted to the back mountain, shouting as she ran, "Big snake, run. There are people here saying they want to catch you and sell you for money." A lot of hunters came, and a man riding a big horse, "Daddy, told me to warn you to leave quickly." I nodded, turned, and slithered toward the mountains. Yuner finally breathed a sigh of relief, waving at my retreating back. Meanwhile, many people had arrived in the village. Most were hunters, along with family guards carrying broadswords. It was said that the town's clan elder, upon hearing news about me, immediately summoned hunters and prepared to personally enter the mountains to catch the snake. Young and old villagers knelt all over the ground, begging the clan elder to spare the snake immortal. As a result, they were met with a flurry of whipping. In the end, the clan elder spent money to lure a few villagers, and under their guidance, the snake-catching team marched grandly into the mountains. White snakes are rare, especially a giant, sentient white snake like me. It was an absolute rarity. Whether given as a gift or sold for money upon return, it was a guaranteed profit. It's just that these people forgot. The fierce reputation of the 100,000 Mountains, that wasn't just a legend. Everyone put in more effort. We're about to catch the big snake. Whoever catches the big snake gets a reward. In the valley, a group of people moved forward slowly. I saw them from a distance, turned, and slithered away, deliberately leaving behind a strong scent. Seeing the hunting dogs getting more and more agitated, a look of excitement appeared on the clan elder's face. After entering the forest, the surroundings were eerily quiet. Not a single bird call could be heard, and not even a mouse could be seen. The extreme silence made the hunting dogs and their team restless. But the hunters in front soon made a discovery. Clan elder rode forward. He saw the crowd gathered around several strange, giant dirt pillars. The dirt pillars were taller than a person, big and small ones clustered together. Remembering that they had seen these things all along the way, Clan Elder instinctively felt a bit uneasy. Just as he was about to order the team to speed up, unexpectedly, on the distant hillside, my tail had already curled around a huge boulder and viciously hurled it out. Then it smashed heavily into the dirt pillars. With a loud crash, a small chunk of the dirt pillar was smashed to pieces, but nothing happened. The crowd was stunned for a moment, suspecting a sneak attack. They huddled together for a long while. These people would never have imagined that if they had turned and run the moment the rock landed, they might have survived. But now, it was all too late. The next moment, a black stream gushed out of the dirt pillar like a spring. Some-sized ants swarmed out, instantly turning into a black ocean. The ants covered the greedy men. They left without looking back. Later, the lucky ones who escaped all went mad. The 100,000 Mountains once again used its bloodiness to prove that its reputation was well-deserved. Seeing that out of dozens of people who entered the mountain, less than 10 came out alive, now even the herb gatherers didn't dare to enter the mountain anymore. At the same time, the villagers also realized that my intelligence was not low, and I played the game of borrowing a knife to kill very smoothly. Because of this, they feared me even more. I knew I couldn't interact too much with Yuner, otherwise it would easily affect her life. So I decided to return to the mountain. It wasn't until 9 years later that I came outside the village again. Perhaps it was fate with Yuner. As soon as I arrived at the back mountain, I saw a pretty figure standing there in a daze. The little girl had grown up, but her scent hadn't changed. If you didn't look at the calluses on her hands, Yuner was still very delicate and pretty. Her long hair hung straight down. In the countryside, she was definitely a top-tier beauty. Yuner felt something, turned around, and saw the long-lost white figure. Just like when she was little, Yuner ran over and hugged the white snake, crying and laughing. "Big snake, where have you been? You left for so many years." Night fell, and the stars twinkled. Yuner sat on the grass leaning against my back, her big eyes looking at the stars together with my snake pupils. I couldn't see the stars. My severe myopia hadn't changed much after cultivation. None of this stopped me from putting on an act. I'm getting married. Brother Wang from the village is very nice. I like him, but I don't want to marry him. Last month, Squire Guo came to our village. He saw me and said he wanted to take me as a concubine. I know a concubine has no status. Squire Guo is 40 years old, just like my dad. The village is poor, and Brother Wang's family is also very poor. Every year, they dig up grass roots and scrape tree bark to eat. But Squire Guo is different. His family can eat meat every day. They don't have to worry about going hungry. I really don't want to go hungry anymore. Yuner's emotions were a bit agitated. She took a deep breath. The day after tomorrow, I'm getting married. White Snake, can you see me off? I nodded. The starry night was gorgeous. On the hillside, under the bright moon, the sound of crying spread far, far away. On the day of the wedding, there was no gongs and drums, nor was there a banquet. A small sedan chair came and took Yuner away. All she took with her was a small bundle. Yuner's parents shed tears of old age, refusing to let go. And on a hillside, not far away, a young man knelt on the ground, wailing loudly. It was the brother Wang Yuner had mentioned. He was cursing himself for being useless, unable to give Yuner enough to eat. Or perhaps he hated Squire Guo for ruining a good girl. But he couldn't do anything. He could only watch as the small sedan chair carried away the girl he loved. Inside the sedan chair, Yuner lifted the curtain with one hand, and her gaze caught sight of a long white figure in the rice paddies. A happy smile appeared on her tear-stained pretty face. Perhaps she had let down brother Wang, who loved her deeply. Perhaps marrying the old squire as a concubine was wrong. But so what? Fate had tortured her for over a decade. She didn't want to starve herself to death just to leave food for her children. She just didn't want to go hungry. If she wanted to survive, she could only blame this world, this fate. I followed the small sedan chair all the way, arriving at a manor outside the town. I climbed up a big tree, watching from afar as the small sedan chair entered through the back door of the manor. The concubine's status was low. She had no right to enter through the main door, nor did she have the right to bow to heaven and earth or hold a wedding banquet. Although it was called taking a concubine, put it bluntly, it was just finding some amusement. I watched from the tree for a long time. It wasn't until the sun set in the west, and the manor hung up lanterns that I turned and left, returning to my own 100,000 mountains. In my heart, I silently prayed for the once innocent and naive girl. Could Yuner, who grew up in the mountains, guard against the scheming and infighting of a large household? Through Yuner's matter, I began to cultivate even harder, hoping that in the future, my fate wouldn't be controlled by others. But unexpectedly, a year later, a stumbling figure ran into the valley. Even though his clothes were torn and he was covered in scratches, he ran madly like a lunatic. For no reason, I had a bad premonition, because in my senses, that person was Yuner's brother Wang. Brother Wang stumbled and ran in front of me, kneeling on the ground, crying and shouting, "Snake Immortal, Snake Immortal, I beg you, please save Yuner." Hearing the cry, I instantly turned into a streak of white light and slithered out of the mountain. It was still that hillside. Yuner's parents and the mountain villagers were accompanying the dying girl. As my figure appeared, the crowd knelt down in a rush. Yuner, lying on the mat, looked at me, a pale smile appearing on her face, smiling so relaxedly, so poignantly. At this moment, she was covered in wounds, likely caused by beatings with sticks and clubs. Yuner's mother knelt and begged with hope, "Snake Immortal, please save my Yuner." Unfortunately, I didn't know how to save people. The beatings were so severe that they damaged her internal organs. Medicine and food could not cure her. The crowd's wailing grew deeper. In their eyes, if even I said she couldn't be saved, then there was truly no way. Yuner weakly waved her hand, signaling not to trouble the big snake. I want to lie on you and look at the sky, look at the clouds." I nodded. My snake tail gently curled around Yuner's weak body, placing her on myself. I coiled up to protect her, looking up at the sky. "Thank you." Yuner passed away. Life is fragile yet resilient, fleeting yet eternal. It was still that quiet hillside. A new grave stood alone. I coiled beside it, just looking at the new grave. Yuner left the mountain village and finally returned here. This was her resting place. Brother Wang sat in front of the grave, muttering, Yuner didn't have a good life in the big compound. That old bastard didn't treat her like a human being. His wife bullied Yuner every day, often beating and scolding her for no reason. She really wanted to come home, but Squire Guo wouldn't let her go. A few days ago, Squire Guo wanted to give Yuner to Master Zhao of the Zhao family. Yuner refused, even if it meant death. I couldn't make expressions. Only I knew my anger. That night, young brother Wang picked up a machete. One person and one snake walked toward the town. I wasn't afraid of killing people, much less afraid of getting involved in karma. Those people killed Yuner. I had the right to avenge her. A snake's life shouldn't be lived in cowardice. That night, inside the Guo family landlord's compound, except for the coolies and low-level servants and maids, no one survived. Wounds were all snake bites. I used very little venom. Just a tiny drop of venom could kill a living person. I didn't want this matter to bring trouble to the young man surnamed Wang. I didn't believe those people would dare to go to the 100,000 mountains to catch snakes. After returning to the mountain village, Brother Wang told Yuner that he had already avenged her, and in the future, he would also find a girl to marry and have children. The next day, after the local magistrate investigated the Guo family incident, he went to Yunar's grave and saw with his own eyes me guarding the grave. After understanding the whole process, the magistrate deeply felt that even beasts in the mountains have feelings. The murder case was just muddled through like that. Some people wanted the authorities to do something, but ended up hitting a brick wall. The county office's meaning was simple. If you're so capable, you go do it. I can tell you where that white snake is, as long as you dare to go. The crowd remembered what happened to a certain family before, and they all quieted down. And I had no interest in any of this. Knowing that death is like a lamp going out, with Yunair gone, I also lost the desire to go out of the mountain and take a look. I honestly stayed in my territory to cultivate. More than a decade passed in the blink of an eye. This day, I slowly slipped out of my old skin. My body had grown to 8 meters, becoming a veritable giant beast. But within my own territory, I ushered in another life and death battle. It was a gray wolf that had awakened its intelligence and initially understood cultivation. It wanted to devour powerful prey to improve itself. So after learning of my existence, it began to frequently provoke me. I originally wanted to avoid it, letting the gray wolf shift its target. Who would have thought it treated me as a soft persimmon? Finally, I decided to kill that hateful gray wolf. After some preparation, the gray wolf indeed came to provoke me again, drooling. In its eyes, I was just premium meat. Eating me could improve itself and make it stronger, so it didn't pay much attention. At the decisive battleground, the two beasts faced each other. There was no so-called probing. As soon as we engaged, it was a life and death struggle. I deliberately revealed a flaw, using my own body as bait to lure the gray wolf forward. At the same time the wolf's mouth bit me, I injected venom into its back like a needle. The sharp wolf teeth pierced my mouth, dripping with blood. Stimulated by the blood, the gray wolf fought even more desperately. My wild nature was also aroused. Finally, I dragged the gray wolf into the deep pool. The moment it fell into the water, the gray wolf knew it was doomed. In the water, it had absolutely no power to fight back. The fight seemed short, but it actually lasted for over half an hour. Because of my wounds and massive blood loss, my whole body was exhausted. I urgently needed to devour flesh and blood. As a large amount of pure wolf blood was swallowed, I only felt a burning sensation in my stomach. Coupled with my severe injuries, I fainted. My giant snake body drifted downstream along the stream. At the same time, the wooden door of a thatched cottage opened, and a kind-faced, white-haired old woman walked out. She carried a wooden basin full of clothes to the stream. A little yellow native dog that had just been weaned followed behind, frolicking. Suddenly, the little yellow dog barked loudly at the stream. At first, the old woman didn't pay attention till she came to the riverbank and saw the giant figure in the shallow water. With a clatter, the wooden basin fell to the ground. The old woman plopped down and actually knelt and kowtowed directly. Oh my, this is incredible. How could a dragon suddenly fall? The old woman, who had never seen the world, mistook me for a fallen dragon from heaven. But unexpectedly, after she said this sentence, deep within my soul, while I was still unconscious, it felt as if something was injected into my originally weak spirit. I didn't know that this was the legendary canonization, the very fortune that demons dreamed of. After the old woman finished kneeling and bowing, she rolled up her pant legs and tried hard to pull me out of the water. The stream water was freezing. Soaking in the water for a long time caused my body temperature to drop and my vitality to wane. The old woman pulled me out to bask in the sun, unintentionally speeding up my recovery. Seeing that I still didn't wake up, the kind old woman even dug out an incense burner from her house and lit incense in front of me. She even found a stack of straw and patted it under my head. A few days later, I opened my eyes again. The moment I raised my head, I saw the incense burner in front of me, the old woman kneeling and kowtowing, and a yapping little puppy. The first time I saw the old woman, I had a strange feeling in the dark, as if I should repay her. So I nodded 3 times to express my gratitude. I prayed to the divine dragon to bless us with an abundant harvest. I prayed to the divine dragon to bless my late husband, so he can be reincarnated into a good life. Demons and humans walk different paths. I couldn't stay here for long, so I had to slither into the forest. But I didn't go far. In a daze, I felt that the old woman had shown me kindness, and I needed to repay her. An old woman living alone must have many inconveniences. I could provide help at appropriate times. The ancient earth myth, Legend of the White Snake, is terrifying. A grand demon capable of summoning wind and rain in order to repay a debt of gratitude actually offered herself in marriage. It's simply too scary. Back then, he saved your life once. Now, if you save his life once, wouldn't that be the end of it? I make it a living hell. But I temporarily settled in the woods not far from the old woman's house. Half a year later, this paradise far from the city brought upon a disaster. The general trend of the world, united for long, must divide. Divided for long, must unite. Raging flames of war burned to the edge of the 100,000 mountains. The government began to conscript able-bodied men. Landlords took the opportunity to annex land and raise taxes, and those so-called heroes took advantage of the situation to rise in rebellion. The impoverished village no longer had any strong labor force. Several rounds of conscription had taken away all the young and strong men over 15 years old, leaving behind a group of the old, the weak, and women. A mountain village without young and strong men naturally became the target of those roving bandits. One day, with my usual severe myopia, it wasn't until I climbed the hillside behind the village that I used infrared sensing to see the village on fire. Many humans were wandering and swaying around there. Bandits. This ancient profession of banditry was exceptionally prosperous in ancient times. You could say anyone could join, especially in troubled times. They were even more like fish in water, free and unfettered. If they were lucky, they would even be granted amnesty by the government, transforming into local officials. After thinking for a moment, I twisted my body, parted the grass, and headed to the old woman's house. The villains were wreaking havoc in the village. The bandits were throwing their weight around. When they arrived in front of the old woman's house, they saw a giant white snake rearing up. Before they even had time to scream and run, they were caught in my mouth and viciously thrown away. Monster! As this shout rang out, the remaining bandits fled in panic. The old woman behind me suddenly knelt down. The old woman knelt on the ground, crying bitterly. Divine dragon above, I beg you, please save our village. We can't survive anymore. A white-haired old person kneeling on the ground, crying bitterly. This scene was truly hard to imagine. I didn't understand why the world was so destitute. After a brief thought, I shook my head. So many fierce bandits, each armed with swords, spears, bows, and arrows. If I really charged over, I might even get killed and become their rations. It was enough to protect my benefactor. Being a hero wasn't that easy. Besides, I was a snake. It was good enough that I didn't eat people. How could there be any reason for me to act as a savior? I coiled up at the door of the old woman's house, watching the thick black smoke rolling in the village from afar. The next moment, I suddenly turned around, used all the strength I had since hatching, and fled madly toward the mountains. Just now, I confirmed that this world was a cultivation world with demons and cultivators. My thermal sensing clearly felt that there were people flying in the sky. That's right, flying. Then, the body temperatures representing the lives of those bandits on the ground, their infrared signatures dropped in temperature one by one. A drop in body temperature didn't mean a low fever. It meant they were gradually turning cold due to death. Those who could fly in the sky were all immortals. Immortals always loved to subdue demons and slay devils. I had to run for my life desperately. A streak of white light flashed through the forest. Although I had darted into the mountains, the unease in my white snake's soul didn't dissipate. In order to survive, I couldn't relax for a single moment, running desperately. Outside the mountain, a pair of beautiful eyes looked toward the place where I disappeared. A white shadow on the ground constantly crossed ridges, stepped over streams, and followed the river that brought water out of the mountains, fleeing all the way upstream. When animals encounter danger, their first thought is to dive back into their own dens. The white snake thought the same. If all else failed, I would dive to the bottom of a deep pool and hide for half a month. What I didn't know was that there were people flying in the sky, and they were watching my fleeing performance with great interest. 3 people stood on a flying sword in the sky. 2 children tightly held onto a woman. The woman looked about 30 years old, very beautiful, like a celestial maiden from the 9th heaven. The little boy just saw a white snake in the woods. He said huffily, "Master, hurry up and kill it." The 2 children were about 10 years old, a boy and a girl, each with a sword on their back, like something out of a myth. The immortal attendant girl smiled. "Why should we kill it? This white worm is causing trouble in broad daylight. If we don't kill it, we can't appease the public's anger." Then what kind of people has it killed? What kind of people? Villagers, of course. If we hadn't arrived when we did, that old woman would have met a terrible fate. If you don't believe me, ask Junior's sister. The little boy looked at the little girl on the other side. The little girl thought for a moment and nodded. The woman shook her head with a sigh. Reading 10,000 books is not as good as traveling 10,000 miles. What you see with your own eyes doesn't always represent the truth. I should bring you 2 down the mountain more often. Not all humans are good people, and not all demons are necessarily evil. The bandits who wreak havoc are evil. The white snake killed those evil men but never harmed an innocent villager. Tell me, is the snake more detestable, or are those wicked bandits more detestable? The 2 little ones lowered their heads, silent. Deep down, they still couldn't accept the idea that a demon could be good. The woman seemed to know what her 2 disciples were thinking. Remember to think thrice before you act. Don't let appearances cloud your judgment. That white snake has already returned to its nest. Let's go down and have a look. Panting as I rushed back to the valley, I let out a sigh of relief. Constantly on the run, I had used up too much energy. I was exhausted beyond words. I skillfully coiled myself around the ancient ginkgo tree. I had wrapped around and climbed it so often that the tree's branches had been worn smooth. The world outside is too full of tricks. I'm definitely not going out again. I made up my mind. Even if the world outside was paved with gold, I wouldn't go. I don't care who it is, I'm not leaving. In midair, the 3 of them watched the somewhat disheveled white snake with amusement. The woman looked around. Although this isn't some paradise, it's still a good place. Spiritual energy is decent. It's the kind of place cultivators would ignore and monsters wouldn't bother. It's more than enough for a little demon who has just gained sentience to cultivate. The deep pool in the valley and the surrounding mountain terrain formed a crude, giant spiritual array. And that ancient ginkgo was the eye of the array. The white snake has had some good fortune. With a flash, the 3 of them appeared on a large rock under the tree. The girl curiously bent down and reached out, touching the large rock that had been worn smooth by the white snake. Who? I froze. Are these 3 immortals or cultivators? Suddenly being followed back to my lair, Didn't know whether to run or to continue pretending to be an ordinary beast hiding in plain sight. My body reacted instinctively. I bared the two sharp fangs in my upper jaw, issuing a warning hiss. That woman was very beautiful. She'd be even more beautiful if she wasn't smiling at me. That was my honest thought. A little snake that has just condensed its chi, yet its intelligence is so high. Interesting. Hearing her words, I, who had just coiled up in an attack posture, immediately gave up all resistance. I slid down the tree trunk to the ground and coiled up tightly, pressing my head and body firmly to the ground, begging for mercy. What else could I do? Can you see their swords floating in midair? Those are sword immortals. I kept my head down, not daring to move a muscle. I just hoped these powerful figures wouldn't bother with a snake like me. Then, through my keen sense of smell, I detected someone walking in front of me. I didn't feel any vibrations from the ground. Needless to say, that person's skill was so high that they could walk on snow without leaving a trace. Keep in mind, there were 3 people here. I could only sense the 2 children. As for the woman, I could only determine her direction through my sense of smell. The woman was observing the white snake before her. The white snake was ordinary, yet somewhat different. It was only slightly stronger than a normal wild beast. Mountain spirits and wild monsters generally don't have high intelligence, yet this white snake had extremely high intelligence. Surprised when it first saw the 3 of them, the mistake, the fleeing, and playing dumb. And then, after a single sentence from her, it immediately dropped to the ground in fear. It was very interesting. Soon, an interesting idea popped into the woman's mind. Little snake, follow me up the mountain and be a gatekeeping demon beast. How about it? Actually, the woman didn't have this intention before. She just came to take a look out of curiosity, to pass the boring time outside of cultivation. It wasn't because the wild beast had high intelligence either. Although the white snake was smart, there were plenty of highly intelligent demons in this world. What made her change her mind was the white snake's delicate, smooth, and beautiful snake scales. People still like beautiful things. Just like seeing a beautiful bracelet, of course you want to buy it. I looked up at the woman, staring at her tempted expression towards my beautiful snake scales, and had to nod in agreement. If I didn't agree, although I confirmed the woman wasn't a bad person and had a kind heart, what if she ruthlessly wanted to make a snakeskin robe? What then? The 2 kids didn't care. Instead, they felt that having an extra snake would be quite fun. There was no need to say too much to a low-level demon snake. The woman rolled her long sleeve and sucked me into it. My vision went black, and I fainted. Great, I was being treated as an object. When I woke up again, I found myself standing halfway up a majestic mountain. At first glance, I saw a giant boulder as tall as a 7-story building. On it were 3 large, vigorously written characters, Shenhua Mountain. Shenhua Mountain abruptly rose to the firmament, severing the earth into thousands of peaks. The thousands of peaks were majestic, and heaven and earth were vast. I remembered visiting Mount Hua on Earth in my past life, but this mountain was even higher and larger than Mount Hua, steeper and more precipitous. I knew I had met an expert. Originally, I was quite resistant to being caught to guard a door. Now it seemed my luck wasn't bad. Having a backer meant a good life. Even the things an expert casually threw away would benefit a snake like me immensely. The woman led her 2 young disciples, talking and laughing as they walked up the mountain. I followed closely behind, traveling along the stone steps by the cliff. Waterfalls of all sizes could be seen everywhere. The pool water was crystal clear. Due to the steep cliffs, the continuous mountain peaks piercing the clouds, the bottomless ravines, the jagged rocks, the grand halls in the mountains were layered like a heavenly palace. There were also stone bridges and long corridors connecting the valleys. Ancient pines grew on giant boulders or beside waterfalls. Clouds and mist lingered, and green waves rippled. As the clear breeze blew, stone pavilions loomed in the sea of clouds. If one were to sit in a pavilion at this moment, accompanied by a pot of clear wine, and pluck a zither, it would truly be a fairyland on earth. I raised my head and looked at the sky. A massive array diagram was slowly rotating. No wonder they didn't fly up the mountain, but walked back. The sky must be a no-fly zone. On the stone steps and mountain paths, we occasionally met cultivators wearing white Taoist robes with blue patterns, both old and young. When they saw the woman going down the mountain, they all bowed and made way. Along the way, I heard a lot of information. This place was Chunyang Palace. The woman's name was Yurong. She was the junior sister of the palace master. The little boy was named Yang Mu. The younger girl was named Shu Ling. They were Yurong's personal disciples. I heard that in the entire Chunyang Palace, Yurong only had 2 disciples. Countless people squeezed their heads trying to enter her tutelage but couldn't. It seemed I had latched onto a big shot. Soon, we arrived at a massive, archaic archway. In front of the mountain gate, over a dozen gatekeepers made me feel deeply nervous. On the stone archway, written Chunyang Palace, 3 large characters brimming with spiritual energy. For some reason, after walking into the mountain gate, I found the air here exceptionally fresh. I slithered behind the 3 of them, passing by many plazas where disciples were practicing martial arts, passing by exquisite grand halls one after another, walking across stone bridges and long corridors. After a long time, we arrived in front of a secluded and quiet, exquisite palace. The palace stood on the edge of a cliff. A sea of clouds floated by, and ancient pines stood vigorously. Looking at the empty grand hall with only the three of them, the white snake finally understood why she was brought back. It turned out they really just wanted me to help watch the door. Regardless, I didn't have to worry about becoming a wealthy family's satchel. A delicious snake soup is always excellent. There was no need to kowtow and offer tea, nor was there any ceremony. Catching a snake spirit to watch the door wasn't taking a disciple. There was no need for any formalities. This grand hall will be your dwelling place from now on. You must also pay attention to patrolling the divine temples on the nearby peaks. I have already notified the dining hall and the internal affairs department. You can go to the dining hall to eat. Also, remember, you are not allowed to wander around randomly. Otherwise, no one can save your life. I nodded. Seeing me so full of spirituality, Yu Rong felt very satisfied. Then, ignoring whether I was around or not, he directly began to instruct her two disciples in cultivation. I simply pretended not to understand, found a place in the grand hall, coiled up, and eavesdropped. The two disciples, Yang Mu was not very friendly to me, often glaring at me angrily. The little girl Shu Ling was very mischievous, reaching out to touch my snake scales from time to time. Suddenly, not having to worry about hunting and not having to be alert for predators, I was a bit unaccustomed to it. It was very quiet here and also very safe. Outside the grand hall, immortal cranes spread their wings and clouds and mist churned. Inside the grand hall, a white snake openly eavesdropped. From then on, I began my cultivation life. When I had nothing to do, I strolled around the palace, scaring away mice, driving away mosquitoes and bugs. Then I would run to the open space in front of the hall, watching Yu Rong's two disciples practice martial arts. In the morning, I went to the edge of the cliff to breathe in the clouds and mist. When I was bored, I would stare at the jade bottle on Yu Rong's tea table. Inside were delicious medicinal pills, but they weren't something a snake was qualified to eat. 3 days passed in a row. Besides eavesdropping, I just wandered around the sect. When I was tired, I crawled back to Yu Rong's palace, coiled up on the giant boulder by the cliff, and slept. As regarding the grand hall, I didn't believe there were no array formations around it. Under Yu Rong's tutelage, Yang Mu had a rigid personality, while Shu Ling was a mischievous little girl who could never sit still. Ever since a white snake arrived, Shu Ling's eyes lit up even more. When she had free time, she would look for the white snake to play. Just like now, I, who had just fallen asleep, heard someone walking over. I opened my snake eyes, and with my severe myopia, I finally saw it was Yu Rong approaching. But something seemed wrong. Yu Rong's expression was serious, and her tone was stern. "White snake, how can you be lazy? Hurry up and get to work." The Yu Rong in front of me reprimanded the white snake. I flicked my snake tongue a few times, lazily lowered my head, and continued to sleep. Shu Ling's tone was annoyed. She dispelled the illusion. "Ugh, you saw through it again. No fun." Revealing Shu Ling's appearance, I felt very proud inwardly. Although I was startled at first, I quickly found the flaw. Illusions only deceive the eyes. Shu Ling and Yu Rong smelled different. My snake tongue easily captured the scent particles. Besides, looking at the infrared, Shu Ling's small stature was extremely obvious. I wandered around the countless palaces and pavilions of Manhwa. After several days, I finally figured out the general situation. Chunyang Palace was said to have been founded by a mighty figure from the immortal realm. It was the state-protecting divine sect of the Great Tang Empire, with profound heritage and countless experts. Among those who attained immortality, it was undisputedly the #1 in the world. The sect was roughly divided into 5 lineages. They were the Yushu lineage of Palace Master Li Shangyan, and the lineages of the Palace Master's 4 peers, Gu Kang's Yujin, Shu Yang's Lingshu, Yun Zixu, and finally, Yu Rong's Qingshu lineage. Normally, each guarded their own territory. The place where I was located was Qingshu Palace. Almost everyone in the world's childhood wish was to enter Chunyang to cultivate immortality, seeking the Tao and immortality. Unfortunately, limited by aptitude, not even 1 in 10,000 who entered the mountain succeeded. Those who could enter the mountain gate were all outstanding talents of the world. They belonged to the type where spiritual energy couldn't be contained even by a coffin lid. Chunyang Palace was the head of the orthodox sects most respected by the people of the world. With righteous qi, virtue, kindness, and unyielding integrity. Whether it was evil cultivators or demons wreaking havoc in the human world, Chunyang disciples traveling down the mountain would definitely wield their swords to eradicate evil. Most importantly, the people of Chunyang Palace were single-mindedly devoted to cultivation and had little interest in worldly affairs. This was also why the mortal emperors would confer Chunyang the title of state-protecting divine sect. I felt like I had latched onto a massive thigh. It was simply the best blessed land to slack off and wait for death. This was the state-protecting divine sect. Who would dare to attack the mountain and cause trouble? Yang Mu and Shu Ling noticed that the lazy white snake had become much more diligent lately. In the forest around the palace, let alone mice, there wasn't even a single stink bug. As long as the white snake slithered past a certain place, the snake scent left behind would scare those rodents into fleeing with their entire families. The white snake, who was only supposed to guard the grand hall, actually took the time and effort to tidy up the surrounding environment. In the palace exclusively belonging to the Qingzhu Yu Rong lineage, including Yu Rong, There were only 3 people and a snake. It was said to be brought back to watch the door, but in reality, it was just a pet kept for eye candy. I didn't have to guard the door every day. With nothing to do, I started pondering how to speed up my cultivation. Immortal mountains and blessed lands had many opportunities. For example, from Lingshu Palace, the strong scent of spiritual pills and miraculous medicines drifted over with the wind. The Lingshu lineage focused on making medicine, refining pills, and drawing talismans. Their medical skills were superb. It was the mountain peak of Chunyang dedicated to medicine and pill refining. I thought the disciples of the Lingshu lineage only knew how to refine pills and didn't know how to fight. I was wrong. Refining pills required a solid foundation. Plus, they refined pills daily and healed people with their medical skills, so they had plenty of friends. They could get their hands on any sword techniques or treasures. They were wealthy and imposing. I was targeting the wealthy and imposing Lingshu disciples. These guys were very rich. Just picking up some trash here would definitely be beneficial. It was like playing a game. High-level players didn't care about trash, but that trash was treasure to low-level players. In front of the Grand Hall of Lingshu Palace, on a lotus stone pedestal sat a giant gourd-shaped pill furnace. The pill furnace was carved with array formations, and copper bells hung from its 8 corners. I looked at the pill furnace, feeling puzzled inwardly, not knowing what the copper bells hanging on the pill furnace meant. After looking for a long time, I still couldn't figure it out. A white snake familiarly passed through the grand hall to the backyard. The 2 disciples guarding the grand hall seemed to turn a blind eye. The news that martial uncle brought back a white snake had quickly spread throughout Manhwa. At first, they thought it was some rare exotic beast, but it turned out to be just an ordinary white snake. The crowd then lost interest. As for stopping it, there was no need. It was just a pet snake. At most, it would just pick up some medicine dregs to eat in Lingshu Palace. The white snake arrived outside the pill refining room again, ignoring those Lingshu disciples who came to watch out of curiosity. It went to its exclusive spot, oiled up its body, and waited quietly. Whether refining pills or making medicine, it was easy to fail. The resulting waste pills couldn't be consumed. Especially since waste pills were toxic, they could easily cause poisoning reactions. The usual way to handle them was to collect them, register them, and then throw them away. Now they had a new use. The guard looked at the newly delivered waste pills, registered them with a brush, and placed them aside. He smiled with satisfaction. This white snake was somewhat useful, saving him the trouble of disposing of the waste pills. This stuff had no function. He really didn't understand what use there was in eating it. Waste pills and medicine dregs. To humans, they were useless and contained toxins. To me, they were great tonics. Toxicity is relative to humans. Besides, relying on my sense of smell, I could distinguish which ones were edible and which ones were toxic. I opened my snake mouth, aimed at the dozen or so waste pills on the porcelain plate, and inhaled forcefully. The waste pills were sucked into my snake mouth. Then I coiled up my body and continued to wait leisurely. The snake's ingestion ability was brought to full play by me. Coming to Lingshu Palace to scavenge waste pills and medicine dregs had been going on for almost a month. My cultivation level was soaring. 2 female cultivators walked out of the hall, taking out 2 pills of poor quality. The female cultivator handed the pills to me and teased, "Here, Big White, this is for you." The white snake secretly curled its lip inwardly, but still obediently went forward, opened its mouth, and ate them. Poor quality pills meant insufficient medicinal efficacy. To me, they were already considered top-tier great tonics. I waited for 2 more batches of waste pills and a box of medicine dregs. After eating them all, I twisted my body and left. Recently, my cultivation had been rising rapidly. The waste pills, medicine dregs, and those female cultivators' semi-finished pills had excellent effects. After absorbing them, my whole snake self felt refreshed and energized. If I encountered the gray wolf spirit now, I wouldn't even need snake venom or to go into the water. I guarantee I'd strangle it to death on the spot. He slithered back to Qingshu Palace, not even looking at the 2 kids who were still practicing hard. I directly coiled up motionless on the ancient pine by the cliff. Digesting the traces of medicinal particles in my stomach, they seeped through my blood vessels and permeated my entire body. I didn't expect this digestion to take a whole day. When I woke up the next day, I felt a tightness all over my body. I knew I was going to shed my skin again. Shu Ling, who was practicing her sword, caught a glimpse from the corner of her eye and noticed the big snake coiled on the ancient pine looked a bit strange. She stopped practicing her sword and went forward to check. Master, something happened." Yangmu didn't know what was going on. He looked at the white snake and also felt that something was wrong. Yu Rong was meditating on a futon. Hearing the shout, she had to open her eyes. "Master, something happened. Big White is dying." Shu Ling's vision blurred, and she was instantly brought by her master to the ancient pine by the cliff. Shu Ling pointed at the white snake and said anxiously, "Master, look. Big White is completely dull and lackluster. Even its eyes have turned white." Yu Rong raised her hand, signaling Shu Ling to calm down. She carefully scanned and observed, then said indifferently, "Don't worry. Big White is perfectly fine. Perhaps it is undergoing a transformation." Hearing this, Ling breathed a sigh of relief. Yang Mu remained a man of few words, his expression cold. What has the white snake eaten these past few days? Thinking it over, she felt it was impossible for this snake to cultivate so fast on its own. It was more likely that it ate something good, leading to vigorous vitality and an increase in cultivation. Yurong's expression turned unfriendly. What? Could it be that you two fed your cultivation boosting pills to the snake? Ling and Yang Mu looked at each other awkwardly. Absolutely not. Big White just went to Lingshu Palace recently and ate a lot of waste pills and medicine dregs. Senior brother Du, who manages the waste pills and medicine dregs, has been much more relaxed lately. It's probably eaten almost a basin full by now. Hearing this, the corner of Yurong's mouth twitched. With her vast experience, she quickly figured out the inside story. Humans' absorption and digestion abilities are inferior to snakes. Waste pills and medicine dregs are simply tonics for snakes. You must know, the medicinal herbs used for refining medicine and pills are all highly nourishing items. They are all things cultivators use to improve their cultivation and heal injuries. Eating a whole basin of them, this was going to cause an evolution. The master and disciples, the three of them stared closely at me on the ancient pine. Not long after, I began to slither on the solid ancient pine, occasionally rubbing my head against the sharp edges. Soon, the snake scales on my head peeled back, revealing the new snake skin inside. I slowly rubbed against the tree, using the branches to hook the old skin, struggling hard to break free. First the head, then the body. Very determined, very slow. The master and disciples, who usually had nothing to do, just stood by the cliff and observed carefully. Every shedding of skin is dangerous for a snake. Once it fails, shedding skin means certain death. It took a full hour or more. When the snake tail slipped out of the old skin, Ling happily clapped her hands. Yurong also revealed a smile, deep in thought. For some reason, after observing the entire process of the snake shedding its skin just now, her state of mind faintly improved. Shedding the old skin, gaining a new life. All things have their own natural laws. The white snake, having shed its skin, clung to the ancient pine and fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up again, I had grown to 9 meters long. Within this famous sect of the cultivation world, I found my own way of life. In the early morning, I breathed in the clouds and mist by the cliff. When hungry, I went to the dining hall to eat meat. I went to Lingshu Palace to stake out and freeload food and drinks to improve my cultivation. Then I returned to Qingshu Palace to watch the door and sleep. The days were unspeakably leisurely. Ling noticed that I had been frequently going to the Taiji Plaza lately. Dai Plaza was where Chunyang Palace disciples practiced martial arts and drills. Looking down from high above, the plaza was a giant 8 trigrams array diagram. In the middle was a giant yin-yang fish. The plaza was huge, at least the size of 10 football fields. I speculated, and it was highly likely a mighty figure used their magical power to directly level a mountain peak to create it. Over 1,000 disciples were practicing swordsmanship in the plaza. Sword chi was vast, like mountains, like seas, like wind. Some disciples were drilling sword arrays. More were practicing sword techniques. Practicing swordsmanship here, one could feel the sword intent and sword momentum. One could also observe the older senior brothers' sword techniques. If their hands itched, they would find fellow disciples to spar with. When young disciples were resting and explaining sword techniques, they would occasionally turn their heads to look at the white snake nearby. It was indeed stealing martial arts. Taiji Plaza was where low-level disciples practiced. The places where high-level disciples practice, I wouldn't understand or comprehend even if I went. In practicing martial arts, laying a solid foundation is the most important. So I lingered at Taiji Plaza to learn cultivation methods. After staying for a long time, I slithered towards Zuowang Peak. New disciples who had just entered the sect, besides going to Taiji Plaza to practice sword techniques, also had to come to Zuowang Peak to meditate and cultivate, practicing how to circulate their cultivation methods and entering the true cultivation realm. Zuowang Peak was huge. The mountain was covered with large and small clearings and platforms. Waterfalls and flowing water passed through the strange rocks, adding a bit more immortal aura. There was a giant boulder at the top of Zuowang Peak. The top of the giant boulder was about the size of a basketball court. An archaic stone pavilion stood at the edge. In front of the stone pavilion stood an ancient peach tree. Those who could come to cultivate on top of the giant boulder were all exceptionally talented geniuses among the disciples. Elders in the palace or those with extremely high cultivation would come to answer questions and impart knowledge. Even the palace master would occasionally come to instruct the disciples in cultivation. Of course, Yurong would also come to teach. 2 little ones, Yang Mu and Ling, were frequent visitors here. Today, the one teaching was an elder. An elder wasn't necessarily an old man. As long as one's cultivation reached a certain height, they could be promoted to elder. The youngest disciple was only 5 or 6 years old, always unable to resist their curiosity, turning their heads to look at a giant white snake coiled on the peach tree. The white snake's head hung low, as if listening to the lecture. This cultivation place for genius disciples once again became my target for stealing martial arts. I habitually flicked my snake tongue, trying hard to memorize these scriptures that sounded familiar, but I had never seriously studied before. Those Those young disciples didn't know how great an opportunity a snake needed to cultivate. Just the shackle of awakening intelligence blocked the cultivation path of the vast majority of birds and beasts. Cultivating without a master, without methods, without a sect was extremely difficult. Now that I had the opportunity, of course, I had to give it my all and try hard to memorize everything. The path of immortality is incredibly bumpy. All one can do is use all their strength to climb upwards. This day, I learned a lot. The red sun sank in the west, absorbing the essence of the red sun. I slithered my massive body back to Lingshu Palace. I needed to spend the night digesting and understanding to truly absorb the many things I had learned that day. The next day, after breathing in the morning mist, I treated myself to a rare sleep-in. When it was time to eat, I lazily made my way to the dining hall. Over there, the cooks had probably already prepared a meal of meat for me. The quality was average, but there was always enough to fill my stomach. I was very satisfied with that. Arriving at the dining hall, I familiarly went around to the back to enjoy my basin of meat alone. In the front hall, the previously chatty disciples suddenly fell silent. The sect's second senior brother, Lian Tianxing, walked into the dining hall with a foul look on his face. No one dared to breathe too loudly, afraid of offending the ill-tempered Lian Tianxing. Moody Lian Tianxing wasn't here to eat, but to vent his frustrations. Seeing that the disciples in the dining hall were all behaving themselves, he couldn't find any fault with them. So he went to the back kitchen instead, hoping to find something to complain about and let off some steam. When the portly head chef saw Lian Tianxing coming, his face immediately soured. Just then, Lian Tianxing's eyes shot towards the backyard. At that moment, I had just swallowed a piece of fatty meat and hadn't had time to run. A cold, stern face appeared before me. Manager Zhang, how can you let a beast into the kitchen? Manager Zhang, his face covered in sweat, nervously explained. I reared up, issuing a warning hiss. I couldn't just stand by and watch. I couldn't let Manager Zhang get into trouble because of me. I didn't believe this grim-faced guy would actually dare to kill me. You beast! You're looking for death. Lian Tianxing was a lunatic. I didn't believe it before, but when I saw his palm strike coming towards me, I finally realized that Lian Tianxing was truly a very unpleasant person. I felt a pang of regret. I had just provoked him. With a swing of his palm, I, a mere low-level snake spirit, was sent flying. With a loud crash, the 9-meter-long white snake smashed through the kitchen's door and window and landed right in the main dining hall. I crashed through 3 tables and knocked over several disciples before finally stopping. White snake. I shook my head, feeling a bit dizzy. There was a taste of blood in my mouth. I had suffered internal injuries. After attacking the white snake, Lian Tianxing knew he had taken it a bit too far. He was in an awkward position. I couldn't speak human words, so I cursed him out with classic profanities in my mind. Ignoring the crowd of disciples, I flipped over and began to thrash about wildly, charging towards Lian Tianxing in the kitchen. It didn't matter if I couldn't win. I had to let him know that I was a desperate, life-or-death fighter. At least here, he wouldn't dare to actually kill me. A 9-meter-long snake, rampaging through a dining hall full of tables, caused absolute chaos. It was a complete mess. Lian Tianxing, who had started to calm down, saw me turning the dining hall upside down, and his anger instantly flared up again. Blood rushed to his head. He drew his sword and charged at me. Without a second thought, I turned and dove into the crowd of disciples, using them as a shield. You wretched beast, get out here! The dining hall wasn't large. On a normal day, even with polite and courteous disciples, it wouldn't be crowded. But now, it was a chaotic mess. The disciples couldn't run out, and they couldn't get out of the way. They all started cursing loudly. The entire dining hall was as noisy as a marketplace. Food was flying everywhere, and disciples were scrambling about. Manager Zhang and the others were dumbfounded. Lian Tianxing was slowed down by the crowd of disciples, and he didn't dare to use his sword, afraid of hurting someone. But that damn snake was sticking close to the ground, weaving between table legs and people's legs, slippery as an eel. Just as the chaos in the dining hall reached its peak at the not-so-distant Tai Chi Plaza, a young man with a full head of silver hair looked towards the dining hall. He frowned. His figure vanished from its spot in an instant. When he reappeared, he was already in the air above the dining hall. Looking down, he saw the entrance of the large dining hall, with people constantly tumbling and crawling out. Doors and windows were continuously shattering. Inside, disciples were jumping out amidst a cacophony of noise. Tables and chairs were breaking, and bowls were flying everywhere. It could be said that since the founding of the Chunyang sect, such a chaotic scene had never been witnessed. The newcomer was none other than one of the 5 masters of Chunyang, Qi Yun of Zixu Palace. Qi Yun placed the utmost importance on rules and etiquette. He was usually in charge of maintaining discipline and managing the defenses of Chunyang Palace. He couldn't tolerate the slightest bit of disorder. Seeing the scene below, he was instantly enraged. Enough! All of you, stop. I, who had been darting around with great energy, immediately dropped to the ground. The other disciples also fell to the ground in awkward positions. Even Lian Tianxing couldn't avoid it. Shu Ling, who had just run to the entrance to try and break up the fight, did a very neat faceplant. Everyone was silent as a cicada in winter, not daring to move a muscle. Chi-Yun's cultivation was profound. With just one glance, he roughly understood what had happened. He glanced at me. That single glance sent a chill down my spine. Fortunately, his gaze quickly shifted to Lian Tianxing. Seventh Master, please listen to me. Just now, it was silence. Lian Tianxing's face was grim. He glared angrily. As the second disciple of the Chunyang Palace's sect master, you actually picked a fight with a mere beast. Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? This foolish disciple obeys. Lian Tianxing bowed twice, then excused himself and flew towards the cliff of contemplation. After dealing with Lian Tianxing, Chi-Yun turned his head to look at the white snake. His eyebrows twitched. I was so scared I didn't even dare to flick my tongue. Who knew if this master, famous for his strictness, would suddenly get a craving for snake soup? Chi-Yun turned his head to look at Shu Ling, who was still on the ground. Shu Ling, disciple is here. You are the guardian of Qingshu Palace. This white snake does not know etiquette. I order you to take it back and discipline it strictly. The white snake is forbidden from eating in the dining hall for 3 months. Shu Ling was inwardly surprised. Martial Uncle Chi-Yun actually let the white snake off? Since when did Martial Uncle become so easygoing? And again, as one of the 5 masters of Chunyang, he couldn't really hold a grudge against a small snake. Everyone, disperse. Craftsman, repair the dining hall as soon as possible. Chi-Yun flicked his sleeve and vanished from the sky in an instant. This teleportation skill made the white snake very envious. In the distance, Lian Tianxing, who was flying towards the cliff of contemplation, heard Chi-Yun's punishment for the white snake. His face darkened. He gritted his teeth and sped away. Shu Ling took out a healing pill and put it in my mouth. After swallowing the pill, I felt much better. I didn't listen to Shu Ling's nagging and swayed back and forth as I headed towards Qingshu Palace. Then, I was punished by Yu Rong. Shu Ling clutched her stomach, laughing. Even Yang Mu's icy face couldn't help but twitch at the corners of his mouth. In front of the statue, the white snake held its head up, perfectly still, balancing a red candle on its head. It was being punished by Yu Rong to serve as a candle stand. After the new year, Mount Hua, being in the northern Yue region, was a world of ice and snow, like a celestial wonderland. The ice and snow melted. Spring returned to the earth. I woke up one morning in a daze. I saw the snow outside the main hall had melted, and it was getting warmer. The snow melt on the green roof tiles dripped down like rain. For some reason, I felt a deep sense of unease in the depths of my soul, a feeling I had never had before, and that unease was coming from the sky. I raised my head and sucked the entire box of discarded pill dregs beside me into my mouth. I shifted my body a few times, found a new position, and continued to hibernate, absorbing the pills to build up my strength. Facing danger, my instincts told me to eat my fill and replenish my energy to deal with the crisis. The early spring was still chilly. I had no plans to go out. The low temperature would make my body stiff, my thoughts sluggish, and I wouldn't be agile enough. I slept for another 2 months. Rain patters on pear blossoms, a spring breeze on the face. Spring comes to the world, to the grass and trees. In spring, cats lie on the rooftops, exposing their bellies to enjoy the warm sunlight. The mountains were covered in wildflowers. The pear trees were as white as snow. Countless young couples went on spring outings with paper umbrellas. Even the sect master went to the sea of flowers to enjoy tea and discuss wine. Truly carefree. In Qingshu Palace, Yu Rong walked out of the hall. She frowned and looked up at the sky. For some reason, there seemed to be a faint pressure in the sky, growing stronger. Yu Rong's fingers moved quickly as she performed a divination. She turned to look at me, who was still being punished by balancing a red candle on my head. I had woken up yesterday and stolen a spirit herb. Although it wasn't very precious, she was still very angry, so she punished me. Big White, put down the candle and come here. I carefully put down the candle, then slithered over to Yu Rong and coiled up before her, looking up at my nominal boss. 5 years had passed. This beautiful master had not aged at all. In fact, she looked younger and younger. Her cultivation must have greatly increased for this to be possible. As expected of one of the 5 masters of Chunyang, have you been feeling a sense of dread lately? I thought for a moment and nodded. This is a demon beast's lightning tribulation. If you pass it, the benefits are many. If you fail, your soul will be scattered, and not even your bones will remain. It seems that in these past few years, the discarded pills you've eaten have been numerous. To be able to absorb and convert them all. Very good. For the next few days, you should rest well and prepare for the tribulation. But it's best not to do it within the sect. Don't even think about avoiding it. The words undergo tribulation seem to carry an indescribable sadness in my heart. Human cultivators don't have to worry about heavenly tribulations at all. They just need to cultivate diligently. At most, when they reach their peak and are preparing to ascend, they face a tribulation. It's just to see if they're worthy. Other species have it much harder. They have to face a tribulation not long after they start cultivating, and then again when they are about to ascend. They face one more tribulation than the human race. Don't underestimate that one extra time. Most demons meet their end there. It would be one thing if their strength soared after the tribulation, but after passing it, they're still just a minor demon. A human cultivator could blast them with a magic treasure, and they'd be finished instantly. It's practically species discrimination. The way Shuling looked at me was filled with pity. 5 years had passed. The Shuling of today was a graceful and beautiful young woman. There are no ugly cultivators. Shuling was a beauty among beauties, playful and cute, just a bit mischievous. As for Yang Mu, that guy with the 1,000-year-old icy face was either practicing his sword or doing his homework. But after learning that I was about to undergo tribulation, he still took out all his healing pills. The meaning in his eyes was clear. His face said only 3 words: "Don't you die." "Master, Big White is so pitiful. Why don't you give him a few spiritual artifacts to help him with the tribulation?" Yang Mu stood by without speaking. His meaning was the same as Shu Ling's. He hoped their master would give me a few good items to help me safely pass the tribulation. Yu Rong didn't want me to die either. Qingshu Palace only had 3 people and 1 snake. If one was gone, it would be terribly boring. Yu Rong shook her head helplessly. This girl hasn't learned much else. She's certainly learned how to wheedle. In the entire Chunyang Palace, only her lineage had this kind of warmth. Demon's tribulation is extremely difficult. We humans are the spirits of all creation. We are spared many hardships. Demons are different. Gaining sentience is already incredibly difficult, and when their cultivation reaches a certain point, they must face a heavenly tribulation. For birds and beasts, cultivation is an act of defying heaven. It is fraught with peril. When a demon undergoes tribulation, using magical artifacts is the worst strategy. Relying on external objects to pass the tribulation. When it's time to transform, they will be unable to fully take form. Neither human nor beast. Even their intelligence will be lacking. Therefore, one must rely on their own body to withstand the heavenly tribulation, accept the baptism. Only then can they be cleansed and purified, and build a solid foundation. Fate is not always kind. Just do your best. I nodded to show I understood, but I was still very nervous inside. Yu Rong said to Shu Ling and Yang Mu, "I have a task for you. The white snake is going down the mountain to undergo its tribulation. Someone must be present to prevent opportunistic villains from taking advantage of the situation. You two will personally guard it and take the opportunity to experience the might of heaven and earth." Although I didn't get any spiritual artifacts to help, having guards is also good. I thought to myself, I don't believe anyone would dare to risk the wrath of Chunyang and cause trouble. After some thought, Shu Ling dashed out the door. She felt that just she and her senior brother were not enough people, so she decided to use her connections to find some friends to help. More people meant more security. Not long after, I slowly made my way to the mountain gate, a large gourd held in my mouth. It was filled with all sorts of discarded pills. There were also the high-quality healing powders that Shu Ling and Yang Mu had given me. Yang Mu landed and walked out the gate with me. A short while later, a group of chattering female cultivators and their followers all came out in a rush. The disciples guarding the mountain gate were dumbfounded. I was very happy. The dark clouds that had been gathering over my head for days and the gloom they brought had lessened considerably. The biggest fear for a demon beast undergoing tribulation is being disturbed. You see, demon beasts are usually loners, and their natural enemies would never pass up such an opportunity. As for those human cultivators, they're like cats that have smelled fish, always in hot pursuit. After a successful tribulation, a weakened demon beast is extremely easy to capture. They might be taken as a hired thug, or they might be cut open on the spot. If the tribulation fails, well, then they can only pick up the bones left behind by the lightning or some flesh and skin, perhaps for alchemy materials. In short, it's a business with no risk and guaranteed returns. On a nameless hill at the foot of Mount Hua, I coiled up on the summit, motionless. I couldn't run, so I could only accept my fate. Facing a heavenly tribulation that cannot be avoided, the only option is to fight to the death. If you win, the world is your oyster. If you lose, you die. There's not even a chance to respawn at the starting village. The clouds above my head churned with dark thunderclouds, looking like they could strike at any moment. Shu Ling looked up at the sky with some fear. Even for a low-level spirit monster, tribulation was not to be taken lightly. The immense heavenly pressure seemed to be a warning to every cultivator who dared to defy the heavens. The field mice were frantically moving their homes, fleeing the center of the storm. The birds and beasts had long since vanished without a trace. A few tents had been set up near the hill. Shu Ling and the other female disciples were staying in them. A strange phenomenon in the sky attracted the attention of many. A group of 5 or 6 cultivators, using their lightness skill, arrived near the hill. They saw the motionless white snake on the summit, and they also saw the disciples from Chunyang Palace. They specialized in capturing or hunting demon beasts in exchange for cultivation resources. Their most common tactic was to find a demon beast undergoing tribulation, and then wait for an opportunity to pick up the pieces. Senior brother, that white snake is very rare. If we capture it after its tribulation, it will surely sell for a high price. If it sells for a lot, we'll get a commission too. Tribulating demon beasts are common, but a white snake is a rare sight. Especially with its skin as smooth as jade, it's a rare find indeed. Strange. Why would a demon beast dare to undergo its tribulation at the foot of Mount Hua? If we hadn't been passing by, we would have never seen it. What are those Chunyang palace disciples doing? Don't tell me they also want to capture the demon beast? The young cultivator looked to be in his 20s. He raised his hand to stop the discussion. A greedy look appeared on his face as he looked at the white snake. Then he looked at the Chunyang palace disciples with confusion. After a moment's thought, he walked alone towards where Shu Ling and the others were. Yang Mu's eyes opened. He glanced over expressionlessly, then lightly floated down to stand in front of Shu Ling. Shu Ling and the other female cultivators glanced at the group of cultivators, then paid them no more mind. Having Yang Mu handle the interaction was enough. As for someone daring to cause trouble here, that was even more impossible. Although it was at the foot of the mountain, it was still Chunyang Palace's territory. The status of Chunyang Palace in the cultivation world was self-evident. Fellow Taoists of Chunyang, I am Zheng Yang, here to slay demons and eliminate evil. It is a pleasure to meet you all. Facing him was the eternally ice-faced Yang Mu. Yang Mu gave Zheng Yang a contemptuous look and said coldly, "The snake belongs to my Chunyang Palace." After speaking, Yang Mu closed his eyes. "Oh, is that so? I wonder if you would be willing to part with a piece of its fine snakeskin for us. It's worth 1,000 gold pieces." Scram. How dare you? Zheng Yang was stunned. Then, a dark fire ignited in his heart. Since when did Chunyang Palace start raising demon beasts? Could this kid be bluffing? How dare a brat like him look down on me? Having roamed the cultivation world for years, who hasn't killed someone? If you're not ruthless, you can't stand firm. Perhaps his killing intent was too obvious. Yang Mu opened his eyes and looked at Zheng Yang coldly. The sword on his back was already halfway out of its sheath. Zheng Yang tensed up. He quickly suppressed the thought, "Then I won't disturb you any longer. I shall take my leave." Before things could escalate, Zheng Yang quickly left. Whether he really wanted to fight or was just putting on a show, he couldn't be too conspicuous. This was Mount Hua's territory. If he really provoked one of those great powers from Chunyang, forget his backer being able to protect him, it was more likely that even his backer would be uprooted. Turning to his companions, Zheng Yang was in a foul mood. His envy and jealousy of the disciples from the major sects had turned into a thick hatred. Reason told him not to cause trouble, but his heart was in conflict. "Boss, are those Taoists going to interfere? Don't ask so many questions. Let's go." Yang Mu watched coldly as the few cultivators disappeared. He didn't know whether to call these people bold or stupid. They even dared to have ideas about a demon snake, raised by one of the great 5 masters of Chunyang. It seems that Chunyang Palace has not shown its might to the world for a long time. On the other side, Zheng Yang led his companions to the town at the foot of Mount Hua. They entered an inn, pushed open a room door, and saw a handsome young man of about 20. Senior brother Lin, the one undergoing tribulation over there, is a white snake demon. Those Taoists from Chunyang are guarding it, preventing us from acting. They even claim it's a demon beast they're raising. It's just a bunch of kids. Senior brother Lin, why don't we? He said, making a throat-slitting gesture. Hearing this, Senior brother Lin smiled, his face full of mockery. After plotting, the group of cultivators headed straight for the nameless hill. On the hill, I had been motionless for 3 days. The black clouds above had become as dark as ink, so oppressive it was hard to breathe. I awoke from a long slumber, knowing that the heavenly tribulation was about to arrive. Although my eyes couldn't see far, I could feel the immense pressure. Facing life and death, instead stimulated the depths of my soul, that inherent, beastly ferocity and bloodlust. If I can't escape it, then I'll charge forward. Even in death, I'll let the heavens know that on this earth, there is a tiny, humble snake that is not afraid to die. In that instant, it was as if I was not that gluttonous, thieving, white snake, but a true, ferocious beast. A movement in the clouds below the mountain caught the attention of many. Yu Rong's fine brows furrowed. He felt that things were deviating from their expected course. Normally, a beast's tribulation would just involve gathering dark clouds and striking with lightning. When did it become a swirling vortex of thunder clouds? This shouldn't be happening. It's just a mere snake demon undergoing tribulation, not some ancient beast reincarnated. Besides, the white snake doesn't have any rare ancient bloodline. What could be the reason? After some thought, Yu Rong flew towards Yushu Palace, where the sect master resided. The sect master of Chunyang Palace, Li Shangyan, was standing in front of the hall, as if he had expected his junior sister to come. Li Shangyan looked very old. He wore the sect master's jade crown and the sect master's Taoist robes. His white eyebrows and beard nearly reached his waist. Holding a horsetail whisk, he looked drowsy, like an ordinary old man celebrating his birthday. But those who were familiar with the sect master knew that he had long since reached the Ascension realm. His cultivation was unfathomably deep. "Greetings, sect master, senior brother." Li Xiangyan smiled. His beard and eyebrows swayed with the wind, giving him a calm and detached appearance. "Junior sister, are you here because of that white snake?" "Indeed. It's just a transformation, tribulation, yet it is so turbulent. I'm afraid my little snake will have a hard time surviving." "Senior brother, do you know why?" "Opportunity and fate. Creation." Yu Rong was puzzled. This tribulation is incredibly dangerous for the white snake. The difficulty far exceeds that of an ordinary beast's transformation. If it passes, its future achievements will be limitless. This is its opportunity. All things in the world have a set course. Even I can only divine a small part of it. This is its fate. This tribulation is the white snake's creation and fortune. Junior's sister, do not worry. The little snake's destiny is not to end here. Cultivate it with care. Perhaps in the future, it can increase the fortune of our Chunyang sect. Ha ha ha. After speaking, Li Shangyin laughed heartily and returned to Yushu Palace. Yurong breathed a sigh of relief. She was also intrigued by what her senior brother had said about increasing the sect's fortune. Down below, at the center of the storm, I prepared to face the heavenly tribulation. The ink-black clouds covered the world, making it seem like dusk. Xu Ling and the others unconsciously backed away. They didn't notice the cultivators in the woods behind them, watching like tigers stalking their prey. Only Yang Mu turned his head and glanced back with suspicion. Mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. The senior disciple of Chunyang Palace felt that he had to deal with these petty thieves before the white snake's tribulation. Zhang Yang and senior brother Lin stared at the Chunyang disciples, eager to make a move. Especially Xu Ling and the other female cultivators, their presence stirred a fire within them. They wished they could capture them and sell them to evil cultivators. Having seen enough, Zheng Yang and the others turned around, only to see a Chunyang Palace disciple standing in the sky, and he was flying on his sword. The senior Chunyang disciple didn't even bother to listen to their explanations. A flash of sword light, and there were several more corpses on the ground. Yang Mu, turning his head, saw the fellow disciple and the flash of the sword. He knew this senior brother had helped them eliminate the hidden threat. He bowed from a distance. The senior disciple returned the gesture, then turned and flew towards the mountain gate. Xu Ling, as always, was slow to react. She even waved at the distant light of the sword. Huh? Isn't that the senior brother who guards the mountain gate? What's he doing here? Shaking his head, Yang Mu felt that he needed to go down the mountain for training more often in the future, and he had to bring Xu Ling with him. Chunyang Palace needed experienced, decisive cultivators. A loud shout brought everyone's attention back. Tribulation is starting. The scene seemed to freeze. In slow motion, a blinding light suddenly burst from the clouds. Then, a dazzling bolt of lightning snaked its way down, straight for the ground. The white snake, with its head held high, was struck almost instantly. After a loud crack, the white snake that had been proudly raising its head on the hill was now lying on the ground. The scales on its head were scorched and smoking. My keen sense of smell could even detect the scent of my own roasted snakeskin. The white snake was in excruciating pain. The feeling of being struck by lightning is way worse than touching a live wire. My entire tongue went numb in an instant. Shaking its head, the white snake was absolutely furious. Just as it finished cursing in its heart, another bolt of lightning struck. Logically speaking, the lightning shouldn't have come this fast. It needs time to gather energy, but somehow, single shots had turned into rapid fire. The white snake's numb brain figured it was because it cursed the heavens. I can't curse today. Wouldn't it be better to find time to curse after surviving the tribulation? Just as it thought of this, another lightning bolt struck. As it landed, the snake scales shattered, exposing flesh and blood. At Mount Hua's Yushu Palace, the old sect master watched the continuous flashes of lightning, feeling puzzled and strange. Since when did the heavenly tribulation change its pattern? The white snake's back scales were shattered, dripping with blood. The demonic spiritual energy inside its body rapidly healed its wounds, but the speed of the flesh regenerating obviously couldn't keep up with the falling lightning, especially the snake scales, which acted as armor. They couldn't grow back quickly at all. Lightning striking the open wounds caused even greater damage. Just a moment ago, it was a white snake. In just a few breaths, it had turned into a blood snake. Xu Ling and the others standing in the distance looked terrified, remembering that they were also cultivating immortality, and if they could cultivate to ascension, they would also have to experience the heavenly tribulation. They were instantly so scared that their Dao hearts wavered. Fortunately, they were young and quickly snapped out of it. Observing this today, at least we can be prepared, so we won't be completely clueless. Consider it a form of training. After 7 or 8 consecutive lightning bolts, it finally stopped. It wasn't that the lightning tribulation was over, but rather it was brewing its next attack. The white snake almost smashed into the ground, raised its head, and shook off the dirt. Its originally dull snake eyes were now full of intelligence. This heavenly tribulation is a disaster, but also a test. With every bolt of lightning it endured, its body underwent a transformation. Pain and blood completely awakened the wildness deep within the white snake's heart. It didn't even eat the healing pills it had prepared beforehand. Its ferocity erupted as it glared at the heavens. Dabai has gone mad. No, it hasn't gone mad. Surviving the heavenly tribulation by relying on external items is still surviving, but it won't be perfect and will leave flaws. For example, many ginseng spirits, or demons with beastly features, are like that because they took shortcuts and relied on external items to pass their tribulations. Passing the tribulation with one's own strength brings massive improvements. At the very least, they'll be stronger than humans in the same realm. Humans only cultivate spells and rarely cultivate their physical bodies. Therefore, their cultivation speed is fast. Demonic beasts are more balanced and focus on body refinement. We humans can only rely on better cultivation techniques and magical treasures to defeat demonic beasts. In terms of our own bodies, we have shortcomings. Indeed, the physique of demonic beasts is truly strong. Junior sister, there's no need to overthink it. The cultivation speed of humans is much faster than that of demonic beasts. A demon's cultivation speed is extremely slow. The time they spend is almost 10, 100, 1,000, or even 10,000 times that of humans. Accumulated over a long period of time, their cultivation base becomes extremely thick and massive. If you encounter them in the future, you must be careful and cautious. Senior brother, you know so much. Master taught us this a long time ago. It's also in the ancient texts in the scripture pavilion. Your sister probably forgot because she was too busy playing around. Humph. Wind drives the thunder and lightning, descending upon the river formation. The fierce white snake tempers its Tao body. Facing the heavenly tribulation, the most important thing is perseverance. The lightning struck down once again. It split open flesh and skin, revealing the bloody snake bones. Sparks of lightning snakes roamed across its body and dissipated into the ground. The immense pain continuously stimulated the white snake's soul. It was on the verge of fainting. The white snake knew it absolutely couldn't pass out right now. Otherwise, it would undoubtedly die. The black cloud vortex in the sky was still brewing. The white snake could feel that the final bolt of lightning was coming. Survive it, and the sky's the limit. Fail, and this would be the end. All it could do now was raise its stubborn head to let the heavens know that there was a tiny white snake on the ground who refused to yield. It opened its mouth and issued a warning to the sky. The snake's mouth opened, revealing two sharp fangs. Big White has gone mad. The spectating Shu Ling and the others were dumbfounded. They feared the might of the heavens, but they also admired the unyielding figure of the white snake. In a trance, their own cultivation realms unknowingly improved. The ferocious hiss attracted the heavenly lightning. A mysterious purple bolt of lightning descended from the vortex of dark clouds, instantly smashing the white snake, with its head held high into the ground and creating a crater. Purple lightning burned the white snake to a crisp. The vortex dissipated. Sunlight streamed down through the gaps in the dark clouds. Yang Mu and the others quickly rushed up the hill. Then they stared at the black object in the crater, at a loss for what to do. Big White has been burned to charcoal. Yang Mu also felt that things had gone beyond his expectations. That long, black object in the crater. What else could it be but charcoal? To think that the might of heaven would directly roast Big White. Big White has become Big Black. Yang Mu's face was full of dark lines. Suddenly, a sound was heard. Asterisk crack. Asterisk. He raised his hand to stop Shu Ling from crying. Yang Mu pricked up his ears, staring intently at the long piece of charcoal in the crater. Although the sound just now was small, it was very sudden. Could it be that Big White wasn't dead? Then, everyone heard the sound. Asterisk crack. Crack. Asterisk. The sound was indeed coming from the charcoal. The charcoal around what was probably the head area cracked, forming a series of fissures, revealing a white snake face as smooth as jade. The charcoal shattered, revealing a head. The white snake had successfully passed its tribulation. Shu Ling was overjoyed and wanted to go forward, but Yang Mu pulled her back. Don't move. The white snake is shedding its skin. In the lightning tribulation, the heavens actually give more than they take. The body is strengthened, and the cultivation becomes more refined. And for snakes, the most direct sign of progress is shedding their skin. Simple and clear, it signifies a metamorphosis. The charcoal shattered, and a larger white snake appeared. Having escaped death, the white snake was ecstatic. At least now, I could live for a long, long time, and I didn't have to worry about ascension. It's best not to have high hopes for something like ascension. Besides, even if I did ascend and face a heavenly tribulation, who knows how many years from now that would be. I raised my head high. I passed the tribulation. Actually, this tribulation was a transformation tribulation. This means that after the tribulation, I can use transformation arts. The most common is transforming into a human to walk among mortals. This is what those stories are about, the ones about fox spirits and scholars, or some wild boar spirit marrying into a family. That's what this is. Of course, most demons don't have nothing better to do than to go show off in the human world. Otherwise, sooner or later, they'd be captured by some demon hunter and have their heads mounted on a wall. The turmoil of the tribulation quickly subsided. The white snake still guarded the gate every day or went to eat discarded pills. Occasionally, it would go to the observation peak to steal some knowledge. However, Shu Ling and Yang Mu were perhaps scared by the heavens. They became more serious and diligent in their cultivation. A huge change. This made Yu Rong very pleased. As for transformation, that was something I had to figure out on my own. The idea of being struck by lightning and instantly turning into a human. That explanation doesn't quite make sense. It hurts so much. Where would I find the time to control all my flesh and muscles to transform? After being struck by lightning, I just became more proficient in controlling energy. I could use this to adjust my body and transform. To abandon my beast form and permanently become a human? That's even more meaningless. Everything in the world has a reason to exist. There's no need to abandon my own race, to become something that is neither human nor beast. A human is a human. A demon is a demon. The fundamental nature doesn't change. The white snake also knew that it could transform after the tribulation, but it wasn't in a hurry. Whether I transformed or not didn't matter. I've been in this cultivation world for 65 years. I'm already used to being a reptile. I'm very detached about my lifestyle, and there are no cultivation techniques for demon beasts in Chunyang Palace. So, the white snake simply started cultivating the Chunyang Taoist techniques, and it was quite successful. If the founder of Chunyang knew that his techniques were being cultivated by a snake, I wonder what his expression would be. In the main hall of Qingshu Palace, Yu Rong sat in the main seat. Xu Ling and Yang Mu stood respectfully. After watching Big White's tribulation, what have you learned? Linger, you go first. Xu Ling carefully glanced at her master, realizing that she couldn't just wheedle her way out of it today. Disciple feels that it wasn't easy for Big White. Xu Ling looked up, looking pitifully at Yang Mu, hoping her senior brother could divert their master's attention for her. Moore, you speak. Yes, master. First, undergoing a tribulation is easily interfered with. One must have a foolproof plan or make the opponent wary so they don't dare to act rashly. Second, Junior sister and I lack experience in the outside world. We didn't even notice those people hiding in the background. Third, cultivation. Cultivation is an act of defying the heavens. We are fighting for that sliver of a chance at life. No matter how difficult it is, we cannot give up. Fourth, the heavenly tribulation is a test for us cultivators. We must summon the courage to face it. If we don't even have courage, then what's the point of cultivating immortality? Very good. Cultivation is not easy, and it is even harder for Big White than for you. The human race lives in a comfortable environment with abundant resources. Even in cultivation, you don't have to worry about a transformation tribulation, nor do you have to fight and kill every day just to survive. The human race are the favored children of heaven, but do not be arrogant because of this. For Big White to have lived until now, he has experienced countless crises. The more setbacks he faces, the braver he becomes. This is something you must learn from. The two young people nodded in agreement. Reading 10,000 books is not as good as traveling 10,000 miles. In a few days, you will go down the mountain for training. Yu Rong had thought that if she sent her two disciples down the mountain, they would surely be sad and unwilling to leave. She never expected that. Upon hearing the words go down the mountain, Xu Ling's eyes would light up, her expression excited. Even the ice-faced Yang Mu had a smile on his lips. For a moment, Yu Rong couldn't believe it. Were these two really her own disciples? So when are we going down the mountain? Perhaps Yu Rong was feeling a bit sentimental, like her children were all grown up and leaving the nest. She stood up to leave. A single sentence drifted back to her two disciples' ears. When Big White can transform, 3 of you will go down the mountain together. Yay. Quick, let's go find Big White. Let's get him to transform quickly so we can go down the mountain and have fun. I've been wanting to see Chang'an for so long. The impulsive Xu Ling dashed off towards Lingshu Palace. At this time, Big White should be over there, waiting for the disciples of the Lingshu lineage to fail at their alchemy so he could eat the discarded pills. Probably in the entire Chunyang Palace, only the white snake's wish left the Lingzhu disciples so speechless. The manager in charge of discarded pill dregs at Lingshu Palace looked at the discarded pills in his hand and shook his head. What's going on? The failure rate for alchemy has gone up a lot recently. The transformed white snake was confused. It looked at the expectant faces of Xu Ling and Yang Mu, not understanding why they wanted it to transform so badly. Eating discarded pills, going to the observation peak to steal knowledge. Life was pretty good. Why did I have to become human? Slithering is the most comfortable way to be. Too lazy to bother with these two lunatics, turned to leave. Hey, Big White, if you transform, Master will let the 3 of us go down the mountain to travel. It's so much fun down there. The white snake was unmoved. Fun down there? It's full of bandits. And there are heroes with nothing better to do than to slay demons when they're actually just collecting materials for alchemy and smithing. A little snake spirit like me, if I went down there, I'd be caught and thrown into a circus to perform sooner or later. Yes, to be precise, the current white snake couldn't be considered a true demon yet. Snake spirit was the most accurate term. Ebai, don't go. The white snake twisted its body and crawled away quickly. This girl Xu Ling is the most unreliable. Even Yang Mu has been infected by her. I heard Chang'an is the most prosperous. You can often see exotic people from the western regions. The literary atmosphere in Suzhou Prefecture of Jiangnan is at its peak. Poetry conventions produce generations of stunning talents. Why don't we go take a look? The white snake paused. After thinking for a long time, it felt that going to see Chang'an, the most prosperous city in the ancient world, wasn't a bad idea, so it nodded in agreement. Yang Mu's expression was aloof. He smiled slightly and turned around to leave gracefully, hiding his merits and fame. Xu Ling was full of admiration. The white snake, having decided to take human form, found a spot halfway up the back mountain of Qingju Palace. It found a cave and called it going into seclusion. In reality, no one could get in anyway, because the cave entrance was narrow and wound for dozens of meters. Inside, it was a whole different world. It was just taking human form. It wasn't some life or death matter. The first time taking human form is very slow. It felt as if all the bones in its body were crushed and reassembled. The white snake felt it would take several days to complete. It was said that after completing the first transformation, it could easily and quickly switch forms in the future. For the first few days, the white snake lay motionless in the cave, till its body's cells and bones had undergone modification and adapted to the changes did it finally begin. During its first transformation, some substance on the stalactites emitted a faint glow, illuminating the cave. After shedding its skin during the lightning tribulation, its 1-2-meter long white body shortened and slowly developed human physical features. After the detailed changes to its body were complete, its tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. They were still vertical snake pupils. Then it closed its eyes and blinked again. It suddenly turned into human pupils. Standing on 2 legs felt extremely unnatural. It still habitually wanted to lie on the ground and crawl. The white snake tried hard to recall the feeling of walking from its past life. Its legs gradually steadied. However, the white snake felt something was off after transforming. There were no mirrors here. It could only go back to Qingshu Palace to take a look. Actually, it didn't really care what it looked like. This attitude was perfectly normal, even though it was human in its past life. After all, it had lived a primitive life, hunting and fighting as a cold-blooded reptile for over 60 years. What else was there to care about? Its mindset was incredibly calm. Even if it turned into a monster that was neither human nor snake, it didn't matter. At worst, it would just stay in the 100,000 mountains for the rest of its life. The white snake leaped forward, almost instantly reverting to its giant snake form. It quickly slithered out of the cave and crawled all the way back to Qingshu Palace. It just so happened to see Yu Rong and her 2 disciples cultivating. It cast the transformation spell. As it transformed, those few snake scales turned into clothing. In the blink of an eye, it turned into human form. Strangely, the white snake noticed it seemed a bit short, about the same height as Xu Ling. Then, Yu Rong and her disciples, who were cultivating in front of the main hall, completely dumbfounded, especially Yang Mu. He could be described as dumbstruck. He didn't even notice his flying sword falling to the ground. The transformation is so complete. Xu Ling looked her up and down and said, "You should dress up a bit." Yang Mu only said 3 words, "So beautiful." The white snake looked at the 3 of them, then looked down at itself. It noticed its chest was a bit elevated. "Don't know what you've turned into?" It nodded. It really hadn't seen itself. There were no mirrors in the cave. "There's a bronze mirror in my study. Go take a look." White snake leaped forward, turning back into a giant snake once again, and quickly slithered toward Yu Rong's study. As for what it looked like, it was actually like a lottery. Maybe it would win nothing, or maybe it would hit the jackpot. After slithering into the study, it instantly turned into human form. Then, the white snake was stunned. In the mirror was a girl. She wasn't very tall, about 15 years old. Hair figure was petite, graceful, and elegant. Her willow-like waist could be encircled by a single hand. Her hands were like soft jade, her skin like fine cream. Her eyebrows were like crescent moons, her mouth like a cherry. Her slightly upturned phoenix eyes, paired with a delicate nose, gave her an indescribable purity. A charming smile, and beautiful, expressive eyes. Her beauty was not of this world. Her face was like that of a celestial maiden from the legends. There was no seductiveness, no shyness. There was only an otherworldly quality. I raised my hand in surprise. The celestial maiden in the mirror also raised her hand. Looking back to my time in the Shiwan Mountains, and all those male snakes that frantically approached me to dance, I should have known I was a female snake. Of course, I would become a woman after transforming. Fate truly works in mysterious ways. No, it's not that. I didn't feel any particular emotion. 65 years. For anyone, 65 years is enough to change one's mindset. I was already used to everything in this world. It was just a female form. In an instant, my mind returned to a state of peace. Outside the window, a heavy rain began to fall. A white curtain of rain obscured the heavens and the earth. The moisture in the air made the white snake feel uncomfortable. I wanted to sunbathe. I walked out of the study. The 3 of them, having lost their will to cultivate, were sitting in the pavilion. Xu Ling rushed over, looking me over from left to right, her face full of curiosity. For here, this was the first time she had seen a transformed demon. If she could, she would have liked to pinch the person before her to see if they were real, and to see where the scales were hidden. Gaining sentience and transforming is not easy. In the future, you must not cause trouble in the mortal world or kill wantonly. The road is long. You should cultivate with a peaceful mind. Do not waste this hard-won fortune. The white snake nodded. The 3 of them were stunned. Hearing a snake's hiss from a human mouth felt very strange. Even the white snake itself was stunned. I had just tried to speak. Why did it still come out as a hiss? The white snake anxiously clawed at its throat, shaking its head back and forth. But in the end, only a snake's hiss came out. No matter how I shaped my mouth, it was useless. It was as if I was still a snake. Animals have a transverse bone in their throats. Only by refining this bone can one speak human words. For a transformed demon beast, finding the transverse bone in the throat is not difficult. At most, it takes a few days. Xu Ling and Yang Mu suddenly understood. The white snake nodded helplessly. My Chunyang palace does not have a tradition of accepting demon beasts as disciples. You can just continue as you were before. In any case, You've learned quite a few of Chunyang Palace's techniques. That's enough for you to use. Remember to hang this jade pendant on your waist so you won't be misunderstood by the other disciples in the sect. You can go down the mountain after you've refined your transverse bone. I nodded again. There was no expression on my face. It wasn't that I didn't want to make an expression, but that I simply couldn't. To make an expression, one must control the facial muscles. But snakes don't have facial expressions, nor do they have the habit of controlling their facial muscles. Even after transforming into a human, I didn't know how to control them. If a demon who had never known humans could speak immediately after transforming and make any human expression, that would be pure nonsense. Even a demon who understands humans needs to adapt and learn to control their muscles. To be able to speak and laugh right after transforming is quite ridiculous. Do you have a name? Big White doesn't count. Let's give you a new name. Coming up with a name was a bit difficult. After a little thought, I had an idea. Since my body is a white snake, I'll use Bai White as my surname. Outside, the rain is pouring, so my name will have you, Rain, in it. My dream is to become a king, become a divine lord. The combination of prince and gentleman is June Lord. Gentleman. Yujin. I was called to take the brush. Her right hand held the writing brush in an extremely clumsy posture, writing on the paper. The three of them thought this was perfectly normal. She could write beautiful calligraphy right after transforming. That would be the real problem. The three characters Bai Yujin leaped onto the paper. Bai Yujin. What a great name. The three young people walked into the dining hall. They were Bai Yujun, Shu Ling, and Yang Mu. Many people turned their heads to look. A certain young male disciple had the steamed bun in his hand snatched away by his junior brother next to him, and he didn't even notice. All eyes fell uniformly on Bai Yujin. There were many beauties on the mountain, but to be this pure and beautiful, as if not of this world, she was the only one. Girls pinched their Dao companions' ears, twisting them hard. The single young men were itching to make a move. Shu Ling and Yang Mu found an empty table and sat down. Bai Yujin walked toward the back kitchen. Many disciples were whispering among themselves, discussing the identity of the new beauty. She wasn't wearing a Taoist robe, just a white dress. Nor did she have a token or sword representing a disciple's identity. No one could guess who she was. Only a few senior disciples felt that her jade pendant looked very familiar. Little girl, you're in the wrong place, aren't you? Bai Yujin looked up and smiled, thanking the fat chef uncle for his care over the years. Clang! A young chef's kitchen knife fell to the ground, nearly chopping his foot. She walked to the familiar backyard and arrived in front of the large wooden basin specially prepared for her, filled with bloody raw meat. Although the basin only contained scraps, the portion was huge. It was enough to get full. The fat chef uncle came to the backyard and then saw the most bizarre and terrifying scene of his life. The sunlight was warm, birds were chirping. An impossibly beautiful little girl was squatting in front of a wooden basin full of meat. Her slender little hands grabbed a bloody chunk of meat, stuffed it into her mouth, and swallowed it straight down into her stomach without even chewing. The fat chef uncle felt the world must have gone mad. At Lingshu Palace, many Lingshu Palace disciples with gourds hanging from their waists saw a beauty in a white dress casually walk into the main hall. Moreover, when she walked, she swayed from side to side, moving in a shaped path. The hall's protective formation didn't reject her. Who's in charge of the waste pills and medicinal dregs? The manager looked in bewilderment as the little girl walked in and then sat obediently to the side. Just as he was about to ask who she was, he saw the girl grab a handful of waste pills and stuff them directly into her mouth. Handful after handful, she stuffed them in. The manager was dumbfounded. Those were prepared for that giant snake. How could she eat them all? Won't she be poisoned? After finishing the waste pills and medicinal dregs, Bai Yujin smiled at the manager and swayed away. From behind, the manager saw the jade pendant tied to the girl's waist, the one that belonged to the white snake. She could eat waste pills and medicinal dregs without any scruples. Could it be? At Zuowang Peak, another batch of new disciples had entered the sect. Disciples ranging from 6 to 15 years old were experiencing the grace of immortal cultivation on Zuowang Peak. However, today there was a girl who wasn't wearing a Taoist robe or wearing a disciple's token coming up the mountain. The guards, the senior disciples stationed here after checking her jade pendant, did not stop her. On the giant boulder at the mountain peak, clouds and mist swirled like a fairyland. Under a giant peach tree that took 5 or 6 people to embrace, empty the mind, fill the belly. Preserve the spirit within, nurture the body without, to reach the realm of tranquility. Fasting the mind, sitting in forgetfulness. Breathing in the old, taking in the new, guarding the one. Under the peach tree, a girl in a white dress sat on a branch, swinging her legs back and forth. Comprehend its meaning, feel its stillness. Bai Yujin was openly and honestly learning the Tao. Sitting on the peach tree, she could see far and feel the cool mountain breeze. It was incredibly comfortable. She listened attentively. Time flew by, and the world changed. Bai Yujin, Shu Ling, and and Yangmu went down the mountain to gain experience. Their footsteps covered the 9 provinces. They once admired the myriad lights of the city from the walls of Chang'an. They also listened to the gentle, lingering rain by the West Lake. They once drew their swords to slay demon souls, maintaining peace in a region. They also ventured deep into secret realms to explore ancient ruins. In the span of several hundred years, Zhu Ling and Yang Mu's cultivation reached great heights, becoming the new pillars of Chunyang Palace. And Bai Yujin, through repeated opportunities and arduous cultivation, shed her immaturity. Her cultivation grew deeper by the day, long surpassing the scope of an ordinary demon king. The demon core in her body was gradually transforming into a dragon pearl. A bulge even appeared on her head, a sign of growing horns. She never forgot the Shiwan Mountains. That was the starting point of her life and the source of her power. After accompanying her friends through most of their life's journey, she chose to return. At this time, the Shiwan Mountains, mortals and even ordinary cultivators, was all ready.